Hippocrates was quoted as saying that all disease begins in the gut. And there's a lot of truth in that your gut has a huge impact on disease. But I think the other side of the coin is that your health and wellness begins in the gut. So today I want to talk to you about your gut microbiome. And what this is we used to think of kind of the digestive system, kind of that the tube of the bowels was really just a storage and transport of waste tool, that it really didn't do anything for the body. And we're learning that this is not the case at all, that the gut does a tremendous amount of things for us to help us live healthy, but it also can have a huge impact on your illness and sickness. So it's important to understand kind of how your microbiome is. So first, what is the microbiome? Well, some would actually consider it its own organ. And what that really is basically all the kind of the gut bugs that live within your digestive system. So there's bacteria, there's fungi, there's protozoa, there's viruses, and these all live within our digestive system. And if you're healthy, they live with this kind of a symbiotic relationship, meaning that we help support them and they help support us. Now, I'll talk a little bit about some disease and pathology when these don't live in that type of cooperative relationship. But for the most part, there's a lot of things you can do to ensure that you have good gut health. But so first, let's just talk about it. So first of all, the microbiome is estimated to weigh about 5 pounds. A normal healthy adult will harbor anywhere from about 100 trillion bacteria in the gut alone. So that's 10 times the number of human cells that we have. The human genome is basically 2,300 or 23,000 genes, and the microbiome, they think, is around 3.3 million. So about 150 times larger than the human genome. So while it's inside of us and not something we necessarily see, it has a huge impact, and it actually has quite a bit of variability. There's lots of things that really affect your microbiome, but two big things is first, what you're eating, and then secondarily, antibiotics. And it's real important to understand this because, us as physicians, often we prescribe antibiotics for various, colds or illnesses. And sometimes it's really not indicated. Sometimes the patients are very demanding and want an antibiotic, but you need to understand there's consequences with that. First, the physicians only should use antibiotics when it's appropriate. But secondarily, you don't need an antibiotic for every little runny nose you have or cough you have. And in fact, the detrimental side effects of antibiotics to your microbiome is immense. And that can be very disruptive to your gut health. So, don't be one of those people that think you need an antibiotic every time you have a cough or a little cold, because it's going to be very detrimental to your gut health. But then secondarily, we'll talk more about your diet and what eating does to it. But really, the microbiome, we're learning, has a tremendous amount of functions. It has a big function in your immune system and how well your immune system works. It's very important in energy and metabolism, and we're learning that there's things that the bacteria are doing for us that we don't have the ability to do for ourselves, such as there's certain vitamins that are synthesized within the microbiome that we don't have the ability to produce. And so there's a lot of things that the microbiome does to help us. And so we really should do everything we can to help support it and make sure it's as healthy as possible, because there are a lot of disease processes that are also associated with a microbiome that's dysfunctional or not being well maintained. So there's things that these kind of gut buddies are doing for us, and we should really take care to look out for them. So one of the things that they do is they can basically process a polysaccharide called glycans, and that's something we don't, as humans, don't have the ability to process. And these bacteria can process down into basically small chain fatty acids that we can then use as energy or store as fat. So when we talk about different types of fiber people eat, and people say fiber is not digestible, which is true. We don't have the ability to digest fiber. But our microbiome, there are certain types of fiber that they can digest and convert them into those small chain fatty acids that then we can use for energy. Why that's really important is because there's something called the colonocytes. That's the cellular lining of the digestive system. And these small chain fatty acids is their primary source of energy. And so obviously, if they have inadequate energy, then they're not going to be functioning well. That leads to what's called leaky gut, things like that. So it's really important to understand that, we kind of got to feed our gut buddies too, and give them what they like. So it's understanding what type of things it is that they like. So that takes me to diet. The interesting thing is kind of think of your microbiome as kind of a coral reef, that they're really different wherever you're at in the world. They're not the same, and that's because the diet is so different amongst the world's population. So the microbiome, what might be found in one area of the United States, might be significantly different found somewhere else in like Japan or something like that. So understand that diet is extremely important in this. Okay, but then also understand that there is some commonalities. So you can do things to change your microbiome with just a few simple meals. Okay, whether it's changing it for good or changing it for bad. And so it's important to understand how the gut works. And so what your diet is real essential to this. Now, the microbiome really likes basically whole food, plant-based things, green leafy vegetables, things like that. But the important thing is for you to kind of understand that this is something that has a huge effect, not only on your physical health, but we're also learning that your mental health is impacted by your microbiome too. And we're actually learning that there's kind of this communication channel between the brain and the gut and the brain that is working kind of together to kind of help maintain kind of the ideal living situation for all of us involved, both the internal microbiome and then us as the host. So it's important to understand that this is essential, that your gut health be taken care of. So now what happens though is if these microbiome is disrupted, and let's say our chronic use of antibiotics, it's very common known that then you develop something called colitis, which is an overgrowth of a bad bacteria. And that's because we're giving you medicines that's actually killing all these good bugs that are helping you, and these bad bugs then can overgrow. And there are other things. We're learning that microbiome has a big impact on diabetes, other metabolic syndromes, stress and anxiety, heart disease, irritable bowel, cancer is something that we're learning a great deal about on the impact of your microbiome. And then obviously obesity. Interesting thing is there's lots of studies that have been done that show how your microbiome is functioning really impacts you both in what foods you crave, but also how you process that food, and do you store it as fat and gain weight, or does you continue to be lean? But the important thing is that your microbiome is something that you have to be aware of. It's something you have to take care of, and is something you really should try to learn more about. So I would hope that you would continue to investigate this, because if it's disrupted, it can cause a lot of illness. But just as important, you want it to be working as at its full capacity, so you're also maximizing your wellness. And so what you eat is essential. You got to take care of your gut buddies and take care of yourself. So we're learning more and more about what we eat and the impact it's having on your health and wellness. And there's a lot of things we can do to kind of control our destiny in this arena. So if you want to learn more, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.